First contact. The vast expanse of space had always been a source of wonder and terror for the Zarkonian people. For millennia, they had explored the stars, certain of their solitude in the cosmos. That certainty shattered the day the humans arrived. Commander Vexera stood on the bridge of the Zarkonian flagship, the Stellar Vanguard, her four eyes fixed on the holographic display before her. The unknown vessels had appeared seemingly out of nowhere, their energy signatures unlike anything in the Zarkonian database. Status report, Vexera demanded, her voice steady despite the tension coursing through her body. Her second-in-command, Kale, responded promptly. 7 vessels, Commander. Their technology appears primitive compared to ours, but there's something odd about their energy readings. Vexera's antennae twitched with curiosity. Elaborate. They're putting out far more power than their size suggests they should be capable of. It's as if they're carrying miniature stars within their hulls. The commander's mandibles clicked in thought. These newcomers were an enigma, and in Zarkonian culture, enigmas were to be approached with caution and firepower. Bring our weapon systems online, Vexera ordered, but do not target them yet. Let's see what they do. As if in response to her words, one of the alien ships began to move. It was small, sleek, and moved with a grace that belied its apparent technological inferiority. The vessel approached slowly, its trajectory a clear sign of non-aggressive intent. "They're hailing us, Commander," Kale reported, surprise evident in his voice. Vexera hesitated for a moment. First contact scenarios had been theorized and debated among her people for generations, but now that the moment had arrived, she felt woefully unprepared. "Open a channel," she said at last. The holographic display flickered, and suddenly, Vexera found herself face to face with a creature unlike any she had ever seen. It was Bictal, with soft-looking pink skin and a tuft of dark fur atop its head. Its 2 eyes blinked at her, and its mouth moved, producing sounds that the ship's translator struggled to decipher. "Greetings," the alien said, its words becoming clear as the translator caught up. "I am Captain Elena Reyes of the Earth ship Horizon. We come in peace." Vexera's inner eyelids flickered in surprise. The alien, the human, spoke with a confidence that bordered on audacity. Here they were, deep in Zarkonian space, outnumbered and outgunned, yet they acted as if they were welcome guests. "I am Commander Vexera of the Zarkonian Stellar Vanguard," she replied, her tone neutral. "You have entered our sovereign territory without permission. Explain yourselves." Captain Reyes' expression changed slightly, her lips curving upward in what Vexera would later learn was called a smile. "We apologize for the intrusion, Commander. We're explorers, seeking to make peaceful contact with other intelligent life in the galaxy. We had no way of knowing this region was claimed." Vexera's antennae twitched again. The concept of exploration for its own sake was foreign to her people. The Zarkonians expanded their territory for resources and security, not out of mere curiosity. "Your apology is noted," Vexera said. "However, your presence here is a violation of our laws. You will power down your vessels and prepare to be boarded." The human captain's smile faded. "I'm afraid we can't do that, Commander. We mean no disrespect, but we won't surrender our ships or our freedom. Surely we can find a peaceful resolution to this misunderstanding." Vexera was about to respond when Cal interrupted urgently. "Commander, long-range sensors are detecting a massive energy surge. Something's coming." The holographic display split, showing both Captain Reyes and a new threat emerging from the depths of space. A rift was forming, a tear in the very fabric of reality, and from it emerged a ship of monstrous proportions. "By the first egg," Vexera whispered, her usual composure cracking at the sight. The newcomer dwarfed both the Zarkonian and human fleets combined. Its surface writhed with what looked like living metal, and energy readings from it were off the charts. "Commander Vexera," Captain Reyes' voice cut through the shock. "I don't know what that thing is, but I have a feeling neither of us wants to face it alone. I propose a temporary alliance. Vexera's mind raced. Everything about this situation defied protocol and tradition. Yet, as she watched the behemoth ship slowly turn towards them, she realized that survival might depend on embracing the unconventional. Agreed, she said, surprising even herself with the speed of her decision. What do you propose, Captain? Reyes' expression hardened with determination. We've got technology that might give us an edge. Ever heard of an electromagnetic pulse weapon? Vexera hadn't, but she was beginning to understand why these humans had managed to travel so far from their home. Their audacity was matched only by their ingenuity. Tell me more, she said, signaling to Kale to begin battle preparations. As Captain Reyes outlined her plan, Vexera couldn't help but feel a mix of anxiety and excitement. The arrival of the humans had changed everything in a matter of moments. Now, facing an unknown threat of immense power, two species that had been on the brink of conflict found themselves united by necessity. The next few hours would determine not just their fate, but potentially that of the entire galaxy. And as Vexera listened to the human captain's bold strategies, she realized that perhaps, just perhaps, they stood a chance. The galaxy would never be the same again. The humans had been discovered, yes, but in turn, they had discovered the Zarkonians. And together, they were about to discover just how much they were capable of when united against a common foe. As the massive alien ship loomed ever closer, Vexera gave the order to her fleet to fall in line with the human vessels. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The age of isolation was over. A new era of cooperation and conflict had begun. Uneasy alliance. The bridge of the stellar vanguard hummed with nervous energy as Commander Vexera watched the human shuttle dock with her flagship. The massive alien ship, which the humans had dubbed the Leviathan, loomed in the distance, a constant reminder of the threat that had forced this unlikely partnership. Are you certain about this, Commander? Kale asked, his antennae twitching with concern. Allowing aliens aboard our most advanced vessel seems unwise. Vexera's inner eyelids flickered in what passed for a Zarkonian sigh. We have little choice, Kale. Their technology, while crude, may be our only hope against that monstrosity. The airlock hissed open, and Captain Alina Reyes stepped onto the Zarkonian ship, flanked by two of her crew. Vexera was struck again by how alien the humans looked, soft, pinkish creatures with only two eyes and bizarre fur patches. Yet there was a determination in Reyes' stance that commanded respect. Welcome aboard the Stellar Vanguard, Vexera said, her translator conveying the formal greeting. Reyes nodded, her eyes darting around the bridge with unconcealed curiosity. Thank you, Commander. I must say, your ship is impressive. I've never seen anything quite like it. Nor have we seen anything like your vessels, Vexera replied. Perhaps we should begin by exchanging information about our respective technologies. What followed was a crash course in cross-species technological exchange. The humans, it turned out, had developed energy systems based on controlled fusion reactions, technology that the Zarkonians had long ago discarded as too unstable. Yet the humans had not only mastered it but miniaturized it to power their relatively small ships. In turn, the Zarkonians shared their advancements in quantum entanglement communication and gravitic propulsion. The human scientists, Doctors Chen and Okafor, were beside themselves with excitement, peppering Kale with questions that the translator sometimes struggled to convey. As the exchange progressed, Vexera found herself reassessing her initial judgment of the humans. They were undoubtedly primitive in many ways, but their adaptability and quick understanding were remarkable. Your fusion drives, Vexera said, they're the key to your electromagnetic pulse weapon. Reyes nodded. Exactly. We can overload the reactors to produce a massive EMP burst. It should, in theory, disable the Leviathan systems, at least temporarily. At the cost of the ship producing the pulse, Kale interjected, his tone skeptical. A necessary sacrifice, Reyes said grimly. We're prepared to make it. Vexera's antennae twitched in surprise. The casual way the human captain spoke of sacrificing her own people was both admirable and disturbing. It spoke to a level of dedication, or perhaps desperation, that the commander hadn't anticipated. "Perhaps that won't be necessary," Vexera said slowly, an idea forming. "If we could adapt your fusion technology to our larger ships, we might be able to produce a pulse strong enough to affect the Leviathan without sacrificing a vessel." The next several hours were a flurry of activity. Human engineers worked alongside Zarkonian technicians, their language barriers overcome by a shared love of problem-solving. The fusion reactor from one of the human ships was carefully extracted and transported to the Stellar Vanguard's main engineering bay. As they worked, Vexera and Reyes retreated to the commander's private chamber to discuss strategy. "We know nothing about the beings controlling that ship," Vexera said, gesturing to the holographic image of the Leviathan. "Their intentions, their capabilities, all a mystery." Reyes nodded, her face grim. "They haven't made any aggressive moves yet, but that ship, it's clearly built for war. We need to assume hostile intent." "Agreed. But even if we succeed in disabling it, what then? We can't hope to destroy something of that size." The human captain's lips curved into what Vexera now recognized as a smile, though there was no humor in it. "We don't need to destroy it. We just need to board it." Vexera's inner eyelids flickered rapidly in shock. "Board it? That's madness." "Maybe," Reyes conceded. "But if we can get aboard, we might be able to gather intelligence, maybe even find a way to communicate with them. It's a risk, but given what's at stake." The commander found herself nodding reluctantly. The plan was audacious, perhaps suicidally so, but she was beginning to understand that this was simply how humans operated. Their planning session was interrupted by a priority alert from the bridge. Vexera and Reyes rushed back, only to find the crew in a state of controlled panic. "Report," Vexera barked. Kel's voice was tight with tension. "The Leviathan, Commander. It's on the move, heading straight for the nearest Zarkonian colony world." A chill ran through Vexera's exoskeleton. The colony was home to millions of civilians, utterly defenseless against a threat of this magnitude. "How long until they reach the colony?" Reyes asked, her tone clipped and professional. "At their current speed, less than 6 hours," Kel replied. Vexera felt the weight of command settle heavily upon her. 6 hours to prepare a defense against an unknown enemy of overwhelming power. 6 hours to test an unproven weapon. 6 hours to overcome millennia of isolation and learn to work alongside an alien species. "Then we have no time to waste," the commander said, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her. "Captain Reyes, I hope your people work well under pressure." The human's response was to bare her teeth in what Vexera now understood to be a gesture of determination rather than aggression. "Commander, pressure is where we humans do our best work." As the combined fleet began to move, following the ominous path of the Leviathan, Vexera found herself filled with a strange mixture of dread and hope. The next few hours would determine not just the fate of the colony, but potentially the future of both their species. The humans had indeed discovered the Zarkonians, but together they were about to discover just how formidable they could be when united against a common threat. As the stars streaked by outside the viewports, Vexera allowed herself a moment of optimism. Perhaps, just perhaps, this uneasy alliance would be the key to their survival. Little did they know, the true test of their newfound partnership was yet to come, and it would challenge everything both species thought they knew about themselves and the universe they inhabited. The crucible of battle. The combined fleet of Zarkonian and human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Zarkonian colony system. Before them loomed the Leviathan, its massive form blotting out the stars as it approached the vulnerable planet. Commander Vexera's 4 eyes narrowed as she surveyed the tactical display. "Status report," she demanded, her voice tight with tension. Kel's fingers danced over the holographic controls. "The Leviathan has not yet detected our presence, Commander. Our stealth systems are holding. And the weapon? Vexera asked, turning to where Captain Reyes stood, her alien features set in grim determination. Ready as it'll ever be, the human replied. We've only got one shot at this. If it fails. She didn't need to finish the sentence. They all knew the stakes. Millions of lives on the colony world hung in the balance. Vexera's antennae twitched as she made her decision. All ships, battle formation Delta. Prepare to engage on my mark. The fleet moved with precision, Zarkonian and human vessels seamlessly integrating into a cohesive fighting force. It was a sight Vexera would have thought impossible mere days ago. Enemy vessel entering optimal range, Kale reported. Detecting energy buildup. They may be preparing to attack the colony. Not if we have anything to say about it, Rice growled. Commander, we're ready when you are. Vexera took a deep breath, steadying herself. All ships, execute attack pattern Sigma. Stellar Vanguard, prepare to fire the EMP. The fleet burst into action. Smaller, nimbler human ships darted forward, drawing the Leviathan's attention with a barrage of conventional weapons fire. Zarkonian cruisers provided cover, their advanced shielding technology protecting the more vulnerable human vessels. For a moment, it seemed as though the Leviathan hadn't noticed their attack. Then, with terrifying swiftness, it responded. Beams of searing energy lanced out from its writhing surface, slicing through space with deadly precision. Evasive maneuvers, Vexera shouted as the Stellar Vanguard shuddered under a near miss. 2 human ships destroyed, Kale reported, his voice tight. 3 of our cruisers heavily damaged. Rhea's face was a mask of anguish, but her voice remained steady. We need to get closer. The EMP won't be effective at this range. Vexera nodded grimly. All ships push forward. Concentrate fire on Sector 7G. We need to create an opening. The battle intensified, space itself seeming to warp and twist under the onslaught of weaponry. The Leviathan's defenses were formidable, but the combined ingenuity of human and Zarkonian tactics began to show results. A weak point appeared in the behemoth's shielding. Now, Vexera commanded, fire the EMP. The Stellar Vanguard's engines roared as it surged forward, the jury-rig human fusion reactor at its heart pulsing with barely contained power. As they closed on the Leviathan, Vexera could see the individual plates of its hull, each larger than her entire ship. Firing in 3, 2, 1. Kel's voice was drowned out by a deafening hum as the EMP burst forth. For a breathless moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, like a wave rippling across water, a visible distortion spread across the Leviathan's surface. Its weapons fell silent, its movement slowed to a crawl. It worked, Rise exclaimed, her alien features contorting in what Vexera now recognized as a smile of triumph. But their victory was short-lived. Even as they watched, the Leviathan began to stir, its systems coming back online far more quickly than they had anticipated. Impossible, Kale muttered. No technology should be able to recover that fast. Vexera's mind raced. The EMP had worked, but not well enough. They needed a new plan, and fast. Captain Reyes, she said, turning to the human. Your boarding plan. How quickly can we implement it? Reyes' eyes widened in surprise, then narrowed in determination. Give me 10 minutes and a squad of your best troops. We'll make it work. As Reyes rushed off to prepare, Vexera turned back to the battle. The Leviathan was almost fully operational again, but it wasn't attacking. Instead, it seemed to be changing. Its surface rippled and shifted, plates realigning into new configurations. By the first egg, Kale whispered, Commander, I don't think that's a ship. I think it's alive. The realization hit Vexera like a physical blow. They weren't fighting a vessel, but a living entity of unimaginable size and complexity. The implications were staggering. Before she could fully process this new information, Reyes returned, now clad in a sleek environmental suit. With her was a mixed team of humans and Zarkonians, all armed and ready. We're set, Rise reported. One problem, though. We can't seem to find a way in. That thing's hull is seamless. Vexera's antennae twitched as an idea formed. Perhaps we're thinking about this the wrong way. If it's alive, we don't need to find an entrance. We need to make one. She quickly outlined her plan. It was risky, borderline insane, but given what they were facing, insanity might be their only option. Minutes later, a small, heavily modified shuttle detached from the stellar vanguard. Its hull had been coated with a cocktail of corrosive chemicals that the Zarkonians used in mining operations. If Vexera's theory was correct, it should be able to burn through the Leviathan's organic hull. As the shuttle approached, the Leviathan seemed to sense the danger. It lashed out with tendrils of energy, forcing the small craft into a series of wild, evasive maneuvers. We can't get close enough. Raya's voice crackled over the comm. The chemical mix will disperse before it makes contact. Vexera made a split-second decision. All ships converge on the Leviathan. Hit it with everything we've got. Give that shuttle an opening. The space around the Leviathan erupted in a dazzling display of weapons fire. Zarkonian plasma beams and human fusion-powered missiles slammed into its surface, creating a momentary distraction. It was all the opening Rays needed. The shuttle surged forward, slamming into the Leviathan's hull. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then, with a flash of acrid smoke, a hole began to form. "We're in," Ray shouted, beginning boarding operation now. As the boarding team disappeared into the depths of the living ship, Vexera turned her attention back to the battle. They had succeeded in creating an entry point, but at a terrible cost. Half their fleet was in ruins, and the Leviathan was quickly regaining its full combat capability. All remaining ships fall back to defensive positions around the colony. Vexera ordered. We need to buy them time. As the battered fleet regrouped, Vexera found herself facing a grim reality. Their fate now rested in the hands of a small team venturing into the unknown heart of a living starship. The battle had been fierce, but she knew in her core that the true test was yet to come. Inside the Leviathan, Captain Rice and her team were about to confront mysteries beyond their wildest imaginings. And as the stars wheeled overhead, the future of two species hung in the balance, their destinies now irrevocably intertwined. Turning the tide. The interior of the Leviathan defied all expectations. Captain Alina Reyes led her mixed team of humans and Zarkonians through twisting, organic corridors that pulsed with an inner light. The air was thick and humid, carrying strange scents that made her environmental suit's filters work overtime. "Stay alert," Rides whispered, her voice carrying over the team's comm channel. "We have no idea what we're dealing with here." Beside her, the Zarkonian scientist Vexera moved with a grace that belied her insectoid appearance. Her four eyes darted around, taking in every detail. "Fascinating," she chittered. "The entire structure appears to be a single, interconnected organism." As they ventured deeper, the corridors began to change. The organic walls gave way to areas that looked almost mechanical, with pulsing conduits and strange, crystalline growths. "It's like it's part biological, part technological," muttered Dr. Chen, one of the human scientists. "Some kind of biomechanical hybrid." Their musings were interrupted by a sudden tremor that shook the entire structure. Rice steadied herself against a wall, only to jerk back as she felt it pulse beneath her touch. "Status report," she barked into her comm. Commander Vexera's voice came through, strained and filled with static. "The Leviathan is fully operational again. It's launched a counterattack. We can't hold out much longer, Captain. Whatever you're going to do in there, do it fast." Reyes gritted her teeth. "Understood, Commander. We're working on it." As if in response to their presence, the corridor ahead of them began to shift and change. Walls flowed like liquid, forming barriers and new pathways. "It's trying to confuse us," Vexera observed. "Perhaps even trap us." Reyes nodded grimly. "Then we're on the right track. Forward, people. Stay together and watch each other's backs." They pressed on, navigating the ever-changing labyrinth. Several times they encountered dead ends or circular paths, but each time, Dr. Chen's quick thinking and Six Era's insights helped them find a way forward. Finally, they emerged into a vast chamber that took their breath away. At its center floated a massive, pulsating organ-like structure surrounded by a web of glowing filaments. "By all that's holy," whispered one of the Zarkonian soldiers. "What is that?" Before anyone could respond, the air shimmered and a figure appeared before them. It was humanoid in shape, but its form kept shifting, as if unable to settle on a single appearance. "Intruders," it said, its voice resonating not through the air, but directly in their minds. "You should not be here." Ray stepped forward, her heart pounding but her voice steady. "We've come to communicate, to understand why you're attacking us." The figure tilted its head, a gesture unnervingly human. "Attacking? No, we are preserving, protecting. You are the attackers." Confusion rippled through the team. Six Era moved to stand beside Ray's. Protecting what? From whom? The being's form shimmered again, this time resolving into something that looked almost Arconian. "From the great devourers. They come to consume all life, all civilizations. We are the shield." Understanding dawned on Ray's. "You think we're these devourers?" You appeared suddenly, without warning. "Your weapons, your technology, they bear similarities. We could not take the risk." Ray's felt a mix of relief and frustration. All of this destruction, this battle, was based on a misunderstanding. She was about to respond when another violent tremor shook the chamber. "Captain." Vexera's voice crackled over the comm. "We can't hold them off any longer. The colony is defenseless." The being's form shifted again, this time taking on a more human appearance. "Your allies fight with great courage. Perhaps we were hasty in our judgment." Ray saw an opportunity and seized it. "Then help us. If you truly are a shield against some greater threat, prove it now. Save those innocent lives on the colony." For a moment, the being was silent, its form flickering rapidly between different shapes. Then, with a gesture that seemed almost resigned, it turned towards the central organ. "We will cease our attack," it said, "and we will assist in repairing the damage we have caused." The effect was immediate. The tremors stopped, and through the chamber's walls, Reyes could see the Leviathan's external weapons powering down. "Commander Vexera," she called over the comm. "Stand down. We've reached an agreement." The next few hours were a flurry of activity. As the being, which called itself the Guardian, explained, the Leviathan was not just a ship, but a self-contained ecosystem designed to protect and preserve life forms from across the galaxy. Its mission was to safeguard against a threat so ancient and terrible that most civilizations have forgotten it ever existed. With the misunderstanding cleared, the Guardian offered to share knowledge and technology beyond anything the humans or Zarkonians had dreamed possible. In return, they asked for allies in their eternal vigil against the Devourers. As Reyes stood on the bridge of the stellar vanguard, watching Zarkonian and human scientists poring over data provided by the Guardian, she felt a sense of awe at how quickly everything had changed. "It's remarkable, isn't it?" Commander Vexera said, moving to stand beside her. "In the span of a few days, we've gone from isolation to first contact, from battle to alliance, and now, this." Reyes nodded, a smile playing on her lips. Humanity has always dreamed of finding others out there, of not being alone in the universe. But I don't think anyone ever imagined it quite like this. Vexera's antennae twitched in what Reyes now recognized as amusement. "Indeed. And to think, this all started because you humans stumbled into our territory. Sometimes the best discoveries are the ones you don't plan for," Reyes replied. As they stood there, watching the stars and the massive form of the Leviathan, now an ally instead of an enemy, both leaders knew that they stood at the dawn of a new era. The humans had discovered the Zarkonians, yes, but together they had discovered something far greater, A universe more complex, more dangerous, and more wondrous than either species had ever imagined. The road ahead would not be easy. There were still mysteries to unravel, trust to be built, and an ancient enemy to prepare for. But as Reyes looked around at the mix of humans and Zarkonians working together, she felt a surge of hope. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. And that, she realized, made all the difference. A new era dawns. 1 year had passed since the fateful encounter between humans, Zarkonians, and the entity known as the Guardian. The colony world that had once been on the brink of destruction now bustled with activity, serving as a hub for the newfound alliance between the three civilizations. Captain Alina Reyes stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Unity Station, a massive space installation that orbited the colony. Beside her, Commander Vexera's antennae twitched with barely contained excitement. Hard to believe how much has changed, Reyes mused, watching as ships of all three species docked and departed in a carefully choreographed dance. Vexera chittered in agreement. Indeed. A year ago, we were on the verge of war. Now, look at us. The past year had been one of rapid growth and adaptation for all involved. Humans and Zarkonians had thrown themselves into the exchange of knowledge and technology with unbridled enthusiasm. The Guardian, true to its word, had shared insights that had advanced both civilizations by centuries in mere months. But it hadn't all been smooth sailing. Cultural misunderstandings and deep-seated suspicions had threatened the alliance more than once. It had taken all of Reyes' diplomacy and Vexera's steady leadership to keep things on track. Captain Reyes, Commander Vexera, a voice called out. They turned to see Dr. Chen approaching, his face alight with excitement. You're needed in the main laboratory. We've made a breakthrough. They followed Chen through the station's winding corridors, passing teams of human and Zarkonian scientists working side by side. The main lab was a hive of activity, centered around a holographic display of what looked like a star map. We've done it, Chen announced proudly. Using the Guardian's data and our combined sensor technology, we've managed to track the movements of the Devourers. The hologram zoomed in, showing a cluster of anomalies moving through space at incredible speed. Reyes felt a chill run down her spine. The threat that the Guardian had warned them about was real, and it was coming. How long do we have? Vexera asked, her voice tight. At their current speed, 5 years, Chen replied. Maybe less. Reyes and Vexera exchanged a glance. 5 years to prepare for a threat that had nearly wiped out the Guardian civilization at the height of its power. We need to accelerate our plans, Reyes said. The defense network, the evacuation protocols, everything. Vexera nodded in agreement. I'll contact the Zarkonian High Council immediately. We'll need to bring more worlds into the alliance. As if summoned by their conversation, the air shimmered, and the familiar form of the Guardian appeared. Its appearance had stabilized over the past year, settling into a form that was a blend of human, Zarkonian, and something utterly alien. You have seen them, it said, its voice resonating in their minds. Now you understand the urgency of our mission. Reyes stepped forward. We do. But I have to ask, why us? Why choose our civilizations to stand against this threat? The Guardian's form rippled, a sign that Reyes had come to recognize as deep thought. Because you have shown something rare in this galaxy, the ability to overcome your differences and work together in the face of the unknown. This adaptability, this humanity, if you will, is what the Devourers cannot comprehend. It is your greatest weapon. Vexera's antennae twitched in what Reyes now knew was a sign of determination. Then we will not let you down. Our people will stand united against this threat. The next few hours were a flurry of activity. Emergency meetings were called, plans were drafted and redrafted. The Unity Station became a hub of frenetic energy as the weight of their responsibility settled on everyone's shoulders. As the day drew to a close, Reyes found herself back on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. The vastness of space, once a source of wonder, now seemed to hide untold dangers. Credit for your thoughts, Captain. Vexera's voice broke through her reverie. Rice smiled at the use of the human idiom. Just thinking about how far we've come, and how far we still have to go. Vexera moved to stand beside her, her compound eyes reflecting the starlight. When your ships first appeared in our space, I thought it was the end of everything we knew. In a way, I was right. Having second thoughts, Rice asked, only half joking. No, Vexera replied firmly. Change was inevitable. I'm just grateful it came in the form of allies rather than conquerors. As they stood there, a bright flash caught their attention. A new ship was emerging from the Unity Station's construction yards, the first of a new class, designed and built by humans and Zarkonians working together. The UZS Horizon, Rice said, pride evident in her voice. Named after the ship that started it all. A fitting name, Vexera agreed, for it truly represents the new horizon we face together. As they watched the horizon begin its maiden voyage, Rice felt a surge of hope. The challenges ahead were daunting, the enemy terrifying in its power and unknowability. But looking around at what they had accomplished in just 1 year, she knew they stood a fighting chance. Humans had discovered the Zarkonians, yes, but more importantly, both species had discovered a strength in unity that neither had possessed alone. With the Guardians' guidance and their combined determination, they would face the coming storm head-on. The Devourers were coming, but they would find not isolated, easy prey, but a united front of civilizations standing together against the darkness. And in that unity, in the bonds forged through understanding and common purpose, lay the seeds of their ultimate victory. As the horizon disappeared into the depths of space, Rice and Vexera turned back to the station, ready to face whatever challenges the future might hold. The humans had been discovered, but in that discovery, a new era had dawned. An era of cooperation, innovation, and hope. The galaxy would never be the same again. And that Rice thought with a smile was exactly as it should be.